Hi, everyone, and welcome to my older adult video presentation. For this project, I chose to focus on stage 5 of Erikson's developmental theory, which is adolescence, identity versus identity confusion. In this stage, adolescents go through a lot of exploration and finding out who they are as a person. They take time exploring roles to see where they fit in. And then difficulty integrating into a role leads to confusion or identity crisis. While talking with my interviewee, she focused a lot on her constant moving throughout her adolescent stage. She never had a sense of belonging anywhere. Her father was in the military, so they relocated a lot throughout her lifetime. This made it very difficult for her to find groups to fit in with or just to have a place where she really felt she belonged. She also kept going back to her mother's negative view and judgmental attitude towards others, which led to a lot of questioning of my interviewee. She said to me, I was a tough kid. The word because was never an answer. I wanted more. She was constantly questioning things because to her, the answer was never good enough. Just hearing because as a child, she said wasn't good enough. She wanted more. Um, what stuck out to me and why I chose this stage to focus on was she met her husband at 13 years old. And this is a huge part of what shaped my interviewee and kind of gave her that final sense of belonging. A study completed by Becht et al. 2016 suggested that those who do not feel they have close friend support may struggle with identity crises throughout adolescence and into early adulthood. I like to point this out because my interviewee suggested that due to not having strong friendships and bonds, she never felt part of a group. She was in a constant state of having to make new friends and pick groups that she felt like she belonged in. My interviewee also considered her relationship with her mother to be one that led her to question herself as a person all throughout her stages of life. Again, her mother's judgmental attitude led to my interviewee just never feeling confident in who she is. Hearing constant belittling of others makes you wonder if something's wrong with you or if you need to change who you are. Again, my interviewee met her husband at 13. She got married to him by 17, which was at the very end of her adolescent stage. And this is kind of what gave her that sense of security and belonging that she longed for so long. For the psychosocial crisis of my stage, this is identity confusion. Identity confusion occurs when adolescents struggle with finding and integrating into their roles. They begin to have confusion around who they are. A study completed by Becht et al. 2017 explores that adolescents reconsider and explore their identity various times before having identity commitment, meaning that they're exploring roles. They are reconsidering who they are numerous times before they finally are comfortable with who they are and find that place where they fit in. My interviewee focused on the idea that her husband provided her a sense of belonging at a young age that she never had. She had said, I was always moving, always having to make new friends and find somewhere to fit. A study completed by Hitano and Swartz 2018 suggests that psychosocial problems do have direct effects on whether identity consolidation or identity crisis occurs. So these psychosocial problems that we encounter throughout our life do affect whether we are able to integrate into an identity role or whether we do have crisis or confusion with who we are. For some psychosocial crises, my interviewee attended a variety of different schools throughout her life due to constantly having to relocate. And this led her to have to integrate into new groups constantly. She said she would just sit back and kind of watch what was going on around her and be like, those people seem nice. Maybe I should make friends with them. And during an adolescent stage, that is extremely daunting to have to go to a new school all the time. I went to the same schools in the same area with the same kids from kindergarten up through graduating. And I remember new kids coming to my school and thinking to myself, like, that would be really difficult. That would be really difficult to always have to be the new kid. And that's what she said. She was that new kid all the time. And that was very hard on her finding who she was. She pointed out that she became a part of a church at 17 after she got married, and this provided her another sense of belonging. Her husband purchased them a home in a small town where they remained for about 50 years. And this to her was her sense of identity, and this gave her that sense of community that she needed so badly. My interviewee also focused heavily on her parents' viewpoints of others, shaping how she wanted to be different and be better towards others. This was especially related to racism. Although my interviewee didn't really express any oppression that she faced, she witnessed how oppression affected others around her throughout her parents' beliefs. And she said that she just always wanted to be better and do better. She gave me two examples that were very interesting to me, and due to beliefs back during her time and now how things are today. She said that she remembers dancing with a Black boy at a middle school dance. And when she was picked up by her mother, she was heavily ridiculed. Her mom came to pick her up early and saw that she was dancing with a Black boy. And when she got in the car, her mom said, "What were you doing dancing with that boy?" And she said, "Oh, well, he's very nice. He's in my class. He's sweet. I like him." And her mom said, "Well, he's Black." And she says, "What does that mean?" And she said, "Well, it means he's Black." And again, this goes back to my interviewees talk about how she said, "I was a tough kid. I always wanted a better answer, not just because." And she said that was what she kept pressing. "What does it mean that he's Black? Why is that a problem?" And her mom just point blank said, "We don't interact. You don't dance with Black boys. You're not friends with Black boys." And that could have shaped my interviewee to have that same belief, but rather than adapt to that being a norm, she was like, "I don't want to be like that. Why does that skin color have to determine whether I'm friends with somebody? He's nice, he's kind, and that should be enough." She also recalled a time that she brought home a friend that she said she just loved this friend. Her friend was beautiful, and um, it just really stood out to her as a good person. So she brought her home from school one day and didn't think anything of her friend on the outside, what her ethnicity was, what her culture was. Um, so she came over to her house and her mom welcomed her into the house. But when her friend left, her mom said, "You can't hang out with her anymore." And she said, "Why? I love her. She's so fun. She's nice." And her mom used the term, "You're going to turn into a hussy if you continue being friends with her." And my interviewee said that just completely scarred her. She's like, "Why would I turn into that? How could that person make me turn into that?" Um, and those instances, my interviewee said that it was then later in life when she understood racism more, she said those events made her realize my parents are racist. They they just don't like people due to their skin color, ethnicity, and she said, "I never wanted to be like that, and I never allowed that to shape how I treated people." So although my interviewee did not face any direct oppression, she did see it, how it impacted others, and that really led her to want to be a better person towards others. Looking at my interviewee's life through a multi-systems lens, um, kind of looking at the micro, meso, macro outline here, she did state that she was just in a constant state of questioning frustrations towards her parents and the lifestyle. She said to me, "I hated our lifestyle and I resented my parents for it." And she was referring to the constant moving. When she found friend groups or people that she enjoyed spending time with, they would have to up and relocate. And she said every time she just felt such a resentment towards that lifestyle. Her direct family, she had her dad, her mom, two brothers. But again, she never belonged to a neighborhood. She never had a good school group or a church that she belonged to. She was unable to make long-term bonds with others. She might meet people and become friends with them, but they didn't have phones. She mentioned being pen pals with people, but that stuff didn't get to continue for her due to always relocating. I found it interesting. The one thing that she pointed out that was common during her life was the norm of risky abortions due to lack of access to birth control. She said even though you were 18, if you weren't married, your mother had to go with you to get birth control. And This is kind of, she related this piece to demanding to be able to quit school in 11th grade to settle down with her husband. I also took time to take a look at Brofenbrenner's ecological theory. Um, Ecological theory takes into consideration the interactions between the individual and their environment assist in shaping that person's life experiences. My interviewee had negative feelings towards her parents frequently due to their lifestyle. She was not happy with the military lifestyle and having to constantly relocate, which was a huge part of her environment. That was kind of what defined her environment through adolescence, was the relocating and moving all the time. She struggled with belonging to friend groups due to these constant school changes. She had mentioned at one point in 6th grade, she attended 3 different schools and actually ended up failing 6th grade at the last school she was at due to these constant school changes and just the curriculum changing depending on the school she was at, all the confusion based around what was expected of her as a student at that point. She did point out that she became a part of a church at 17 after she got married, and this was such a positive support and a community that she belonged to. One thing that she said that really stuck out to me and just kind of warmed my heart was when she was getting married, her husband asked her, what do you want? What do you need from me? And her response was, I want roots. I want to know people for a long time. And that kind of, when she said it at the time, made me choke up because it was sad to me that's what she longed for so much at such a young age. And then at 17, still being so young and getting married, she was able to recognize at that young age, that's what I want. I just want to be somewhere for a long time and know people around me. And luckily, she had a good outcome with that. She got married, they bought their first home, and she lived in that home for 50 plus years up until they moved just outside of that little town. It's still the same area, but just a little town over. But yeah, she stayed there for 50 years, and that's what she wanted. She said that due to having a stable environment with consistent support, she finally felt like she knew where she belonged as a person. Um, she mentioned when they moved into their trailer park, I guess it was originally where they lived, the women in her trailer park were the ones that kind of taught her how to cook, along with her church group, taught her how to cook. She was wanting to know wifely duties because she said her mother wasn't really, she didn't cook, she didn't really do any of that stuff. She didn't learn that from her mother. So the women in her trailer park taught her a lot of things. The women at church put together a cookbook for her that she was able to use to cook for her husband and learn to cook. So that sense of community in those groups are what allowed my interviewee to find that identity, her sense of identity, and no longer really be confused about it at the end of her adolescent stage. Erickson's theory specifically outlines each stage, which can be limiting when trying to explore everything that impacted the development of a person. At each stage, there's one of two things. So for stage 5, it's identity or identity crisis. I think it's fair to say that there is a lot more that goes into that during those stages. I think that Erickson's theory, at each stage, it's point blank. Those are the two parts of that theory. And then at the next stage, it moves on to 2 different parts where life is more fluid than that. Each stage kind of bleeds into the next, and you experience pieces of each of those stages throughout your entire development. Another thing that stuck out to me is societal norms continually change and depend upon culture, and this can impact a person's development during that said stage. So things that my interviewee experienced then are, the norms might have been different than what they are now, or even culturally. Norms change culture to culture, where this theory doesn't really take into consideration that. So those are the limitations that really stuck out to me while looking at this project. Here are my references, and thank you.